trash, yeah, that won't work. Okay, we'll get another one going. Sorry, you never want to start class like this, right? Where you're fiddling with.
Well, I didn't give you a chance.
I knew you already had your stuff up, so. So, as we mentioned yesterday, my name is Mary Ann Hansen, and I'm from the Child Development Department. And I spent some time last night looking at the feedback people had gotten, and I want to sort of reiterate what Hugh said. But I really appreciate that feedback. It's a little difficult. I know you guys probably give workshops yourselves, and it's so different than the experience of teaching a class where you're building a community over, a course of weeks, getting to know people. And here I'm just dropping in, right? And all I'm going to do this morning is maybe facilitate some conversation. Some things that I want to share, some ideas.
That's fine. That's fine. Do you want to use the remote, or are you okay with?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. You want to use it? No, it's fine. Okay, fine. Let me get out of right here.
Okay. Sharing some ideas and some thoughts or ways to start thinking about student learning objectives. But I feel like there's some we need to do some sort of backing up. Because yesterday I was only able to be here the first part of the morning, and I didn't really get to hear what courses you guys were planning to redesign, and I want to hear a little more about that. So I was hoping we could do some reintroductions. I want to just reiterate sort of where today fits within a whole week's plan. I want to do some checking in about yesterday and some takeaways and what I've noticed about where some of you are. And then I want to lead us into thinking about student learning objectives. So let's start. Just quickly, what you like to be called, or what you like to be called, your department, what classes you teach, and then which class are you planning to redesign and why? What is it about that that has been working for you, hasn't been working for you? Why did you choose that class? So if we could start, and I'm going to start with Jeff because Jeff's not redesigning, of course, so we can start with you.
Sure. So Suzanne, I'm from the history department. I am a Latin American specialist, so I teach just about every class you could imagine on Latin America, since I'm the only person who does it. History of Mexico, history of Brazil, women in Latin America, environmental history of Latin America, et cetera, et cetera. And the two classes that I'm trying to redesign, which kind of fit together, are colonial Latin America and modern Latin America, both of which are 100 level GE Area D courses. Why I want to design them, well, on a basic level, they become kind of stale for me, and I want to enliven them for myself. But the other thing is that after having taught these classes for many, many, many years, and as I notice my students becoming different as an audience and different in the way that they approach their own education, I want to do things that are different. And I've especially become aware over the last few years about how much my field is sort of enmeshed in this sort of lecture discussion model, and I'd like to try and get away from that, especially in this class. So I'm just looking for ideas about how to do that. I also have a lot of like many of you, a lot of first generation students in my classes, and because of the topic, I get a lot of Latino students in my classes, and I'd like to be able to make the class better for them.
Is that sort of make a better match, make a better experience?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What else? Thank you.
My name is Lauren Collins. I'm from the Academic and Career Advising Center and also the Center for Service Learning and Academic Internships. I'm not actually working on just one specific course, although I am designing a course to use with faculty. Part of a project with the Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences to embed career curriculum and assignments and education across all the majors. And so just working to up those materials, get those up a notch, and then also adding service learning to that now this next semester. So.
Service learning. Tell me more about kick it up a notch. I love that.
Turn those into more better examples of significant learning experiences, which I think that some of the time, sometimes talking about jobs and careers and life planning does that already a little bit, because it's taking everything from outside the classroom to connect to the next steps. But I think creating really good examples modules, upping those kind of things, and then also a lot more involving a lot more e-learning in that. Getting a chance in the next couple semesters to do some of the first through some e-learning type courses. So.
That's why e-learning?
Mm-hmm.
Why e-learning?
Remote students mostly, and then yeah.
Well, I like to be called hardworking and passionate.
Oh, I like that.
My department that I sit in is politics, but I run the International Studies program, which is housed in the politics department as a major, but it is not a department. So that's part of my schizophrenic lifestyle. The classes I teach, most things that have international in it, so international law, international politics, international studies, international relations, that kind of little suite of classes, some for poli-sci, some for the major. I have taught the senior seminar in politics and the capstone for international studies. I also volunteered to teach the first year experience, just to see what the other end of the spectrum is like. That's what I teach. Classes I'm redesigning why is we have created a critical thinking class, International Studies 100, which is critical thinking globalization, which is trying to combine secretly, it's to recruit people from a major, but didn't tell anyone. But it's also because some of the things that I see, I do a lot of work with Lauren and career stuff, and I spent 20 years not an academe before I came to this field, another accidental teacher. But certainly I approach things very practically. So the approach that Finn takes I really like, just because it's sort of, well, duh, if you want them to be able to do this, you should get them to do this in the classroom. Go check that out. And that appeals to what I try and do in the classroom in terms of their assignments. These are often very practical, often very sort of end product related, and trying to get them to think is one of the things that I sort of felt that I could see missing. So I decided that we ought to offer this to the university, but also because it gives me an excuse to do career introduction and thinking about thinking and thinking about writing and thinking about just the muscle memory of the kinds of things that I want them to have as they go on in the rest of their college career.
How do I
just same old,
same old, same old? You mentioned thinking about thinking, right? And which, you know, is bad cognition. And is included in think. Think doesn't, it's included in this conceptualization and a reconceptualization of Bloom's, but kind of get to that. Is there anything else you want me to add on your list? Stars, numbers? Okay.
Hi, I'm Nick. I teach in geography and environmental science and management in the geospatial curriculum. I'm going to be doing an online class for geospatial concepts, so that's pretty much why I'm here.
That's fun. Anything else right now?
I'm Carrie from Native American Studies. I teach NAS 104 Intro to NAS, also a 200 class, which is Indigenous People and U.S. History, oral traditions, and then the nature and issues of genocide. So I'm all very happy, uplifting classes. So our majors say we need to have a scale of depression. We need to rate each class and how the pressure is. Yeah, we're very happy with it. So, we're here to redesign NAS 104, and response is being part of the STEM first year experience and part of the collaborative. We have some major work we need to do with it. It has a high failure rate, And we've looked back and tried to figure out why that is, and we want to address those issues. And it's also, we have sort of the opposite problem that a lot of other classes have on campus. We tend to get reaction from our white students, for lack of a better word, in that they react to our class saying, you're bashing the United States, you're bashing white people. We get a lot of flack. In fact, we've even had students, I actually had a student walk up in the first session of class last semester, as after we had the syllabus, after talking about what we're going to be doing, we handed me the syllabus. You got this great big guy walking at you, like, okay, this is going to be one or two days. So he hands me back the syllabus in front of class, because I'm going to go to the history department to learn real history. Okay, so what we're trying to do with this course is sort of figure a way to get rid of that tension and provide some extra pieces that aren't currently there that will get them to be more interactive.
It's a challenge.
Okay, so you're never supposed to do this, right? When you're doing sort of people giving you their ideas, you're never supposed to edit. And there I started out editing because you said get rid of the tension. And
Or ease it.
okay.
Ease it would be a better word.
I was going to say work with, but let's just because gosh, that's a conversation I want to have with you about because I've had that same experience and say more.
Yeah, what we found so far is if we can find a piece from, I think we have NBC Learn through Google now. If we can find Tom Brokaw saying the exact same thing we're saying, the student will accept it and go, yeah, that's valid. But if I put Oren Lyons up there or Vine Deloria, no, they can say the exact same thing, and they will not accept it.
Some of them won't accept that.
Some won't accept that. I mean, I've even gone so far as to find Rush Limbaugh saying what I need to say. But it's a very different dynamic in that we get everybody's majors. So we feed into social work and into criminal justice studies. So we feed into all these different majors. So we get everybody, and the first reaction we always get is, "You're telling me everybody lied to you." Well, we're not telling you they lied to you. We're telling you they probably didn't know.
Well, sometimes they lie.
Well, sometimes they do. So that's part of what I'm here is to find those resources that we for this course, to find those resources that we can use to make this more accessible to students who haven't been exposed to it. We don't tend to have a huge reaction from our underrepresented students. They flock to the class. So that's our issue.
Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful writing.
I'm feeling like
I love that. It's like primary school students teaching about having primary school and writing. Yours is beautiful. I can read it.
It'll get worse. Thanks for that.
I'm Melinda, and we share lots of students because I'm in psych here at Chelmsford. And I have taught everything in our department, I think 12 or 13 different preps, from first year students to graduate students. I'm a clinical psychologist, but I think that probably what I know most about is teaching. And I've been trying to understand that. So we, in introductory psychology, our Psychology 104, had, first of all, some course drift because we would have people who, just because we were so short of faculty, have never taught before in their lives come in and get assigned 160 students in Founders 118. And that is a recipe for disaster. So one of the things that we're trying to do is this is unbeknownst to me, looking at different success rates, which faculty might be good to draft. And they drafted me to, they gave me a promotion because I've been a lecturer since Plants Evolved. And now my new full-time job is I teach and coordinate all of the introductory psychology. So the reason is that my disparity in failure rates is lower than other faculty in my department. And I'm doing some research right now to try to understand more about what that is and why that is, because I don't really know. I have some guesses, but you can't really know. And I like research, and I'm a scientist at heart. So I want to know, I don't want to just use the seems right to me method, because I think it's fraught with difficulty. But I'm trying to take this thing that I've done in my sections of intro, which was break students out within the classroom for 20 minutes out of an hour, 20-minute lecture, roughly, in a permanent small group, and make that more. Now we're using 2 hours a week in large lecture, 1 hour a week in small activity sections, and I have to write that curriculum for those activity sections, and I'm teaching other people how to teach while I'm teaching intro. And the other people, fortunately for me, are all lecturers with good track records. I am grateful that I had some input about who that might be. And they represent lots of different expertises within the science of psychology, which is huge. But so what I'm trying to do is to write 15 really impactful, significant learning experiences to be taught in those activity sections, which are, unlike my lecture sections, which are 135 or 160, they are 20 or so students each. So I want to write these to make sure we're focusing on what we agree as a department are the key things in intro, and design the course around that. So my intention is to go deeper with fewer topics than try to do. Everybody has this thing in your intro class, you can't possibly cover everything. So I'm going to stop trying, I think, and focus more on the things that will serve our students moving forward in our major, specifically knowing what since I taught everything in science, knowing what it is that we do in the larger picture.
I appreciate that concept of the larger picture, and some of you have already sort of mentioned that, because each course, right, is part of this bigger architecture or structure. Architecture to follow on Jeff's example yesterday, but how you weave that is such a challenge. Anything else for me to add?
I'm Aaron. I'm a lecturer in forestry and wildland resources. Like Linda, I've done 2 different courses over the last couple of years. What I'm here to primarily focus on is I do forest mensuration, which is sort of a quantitative statistics course for junior level students, and I'm interested in incorporating more sort of flipped activities into that. I also have in the back of my mind, as I'm talking to people, tinkering with a critical thinking course that I do just about every semester, which is a GE and has majors from all over, and it's the toughest one I teach because it's hard to get everyone interested in the same thing and moving forward. And it also has some issues with failure rate, which is mostly attributable to people just stopping showing up. And then very early in the semester, I've looked, and if they don't show up for like the first 3 weeks of class, that's who fails.
Wow.
So.
Can you say more about this sort of critical thinking component? You said that there's a focus on that class.
It's a critical thinking class.
Okay.
So there's a GE requirement that everyone takes a critical thinking.
Right.
So
it's meeting that component.
It's meeting that component. It's not, it's not for majors. It is GE.
It's 2 different classes.
Yes. Yeah. No, I got that. Yeah, had that. But thank you. So I'm just interested in. So you're going to add to your list of to-dos, right? You came in thinking about one class, but now you're.
Well, I was thinking about critical
another.
thinking, and I've been thinking, it's a continual sort of try and improve and make incremental changes.
Yeah.
To how that works.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because when I think about SLOs, this is one of my stumbling blocks, because I think it's really easy to design activities around knowledge, but when you get to thinking and really sort of incorporation and integration, at that cognitive level, that's the part that at least I struggle with. Maybe you guys, and actually maybe I bet you guys do have some successes with that you can share with one another. But I just love that you mentioned that, because I feel like the easy road is to not go there, and the harder path is to, I mean, obviously you have a class that's designed to meet that, but I think it belongs everywhere. What you're doing is teaching some foundational skills that then students will take into their other classes. But I want to produce people who can think critically about the concepts that they're introduced to in child development in our fields. So.
And just one of my challenges there is it's 86 students. And so how do you teach 86 students critical thinking without really, how much feedback can you give them?
Right, right. Well, and what we know from cognitive science is that most of us don't stay in that place. In fact, we do it very little in our lives where we're thinking abstractly and critically. Most of the time, we're just sticking with what's concrete, what we know, and we don't do the kind of mental acrobatics that critical thinking requires. And so then to do that with a large group where they may not be used to doing that is pretty difficult. So thank you for mentioning that. Is there anything else you wanted me to add? No.
I go by Yvonne. I teach in the social work program, and kind of more specifically have primarily taught in our distributed learning program. And at this point in time, we now offer the opportunity for students to complete their bachelor's of social work completely online through distance learning, as well as a self-support MSW program that is also online via distance learning. And so that's actually the foundation for most of my teaching experience at this point in time. And how do we build cohorts and create student support in that space? So I teach a lot of the support classes as well as field seminars in that capacity. So how are we building relationships and community with students that are literally like from Idaho to Alaska to LA to Beaverville. The class that I'm specifically working on redesigning for this is our master's project seminar, specifically the first semester. And I taught it online last year for our distance learning students. And I will be teaching it on campus for the first time this fall. And so what I'm interested in is taking the knowledge and community building and online support that I've already built for my online course structure and getting the buy-in for our campus students who, so last fall when I taught the campus students, they were pretty resistant to needing to use Moodle. I don't know if that was that particular cohort, but they were kind of like, no, we take classes in person. We shouldn't have to look at a Moodle page. And that particular cohort was a pretty resistant group, but I'm just kind of aware that there may, like, how do I get, I'll just kind of set it out that this is how the course is structured. But one of the other things that's interesting is that there's 2 sections of this class that actually there'll be 4. There's 2 that are online and 2 that are on campus, totally different groups of students. But the 2 that are on campus, it's a cohort of students, so you get that like, well, this teacher didn't make us do this or didn't do that. But I'm generally thinking about that it's a project-driven class, that the classroom space should be more like project work and peer support and faculty support, and the resources to guide them will be structured into the Moodle site, and that a lot of, and some of that is also about peer accountability being structured in there. So where are you at, what struggles are you facing, how are you honest with your peers? Actually, I have not completed my IRB paperwork yet. And navigating those challenges and building that willingness to be vulnerable.
You don't have a short, easy list, do you? I know, this is such a word. Building,
We have an issue with our master's project process, and they want all of our students to do interviews whether or not they will actually do.
I was, sort of a little off topic, but, I was looking at the proposed, you can see those two proposed, new course evaluations forms that got circulated. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe you know. But I was interested that one of the questions on one of the forms was that the instructor, essentially, I can't remember the exact wording, but was willing to acknowledge when they didn't know. And I thought, oh, I like that. Maybe that's because I say all the time, oh, I don't know. I can get a good one on that. But just that it's hard to be vulnerable, especially, in this kind of environment where everybody is trying to prove what they know, because their self-worth maybe or self-esteem, who knows, is attached to that. But there's just so much pressure, and so being vulnerable is a difficult thing. But I think that it goes back to what Carrie was saying about, the walls that were going up with some students, because when you start to understand that what you've been taught in history was not the complete picture, in fact, maybe was an intentionally incomplete picture, then that starts to undermine, right, what you've built your sort of understanding on. And so that's a hard place to be. It's how can you be there safely, but how can you move students to specifically to this without that?
When it's project-based learning too, so there's this thing about, like, we're used to fronting, like, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm doing everything, and it's like, but I need to know when you're failing, quote unquote, so that we can solve the problem, we can strategize, we can come up with a new timeline, we can rework the goals, and that you learn, like, my students who got the best understanding of what a framework really means for implementing methodology are the ones that bombed it and had to go back and refigure it out and be like, oh, that's not how this is actually working. They know it actually much better than I think some of the students who followed a structure, and it's beautiful. And I think there's that piece too about acknowledging that actually we learn from making mistakes and working through difficulties, and that stays with us sometimes in a deeper way than taking the easy path.
Well, that's what the theorists say, right? That it is that disequilibrium that is the window or the door into better, deeper, greater, more connected, more integrated understanding. But that disequilibrium is a really hard place to be in. So, I feel like in my classes I'm doing some holding of the safe space and pushing on that disequilibrium so that it's just enough that they can go through that door, but not enough so that they shut down. And that's a really hard place to live. So thank you. Do you want me to add anything else? Is that?
Maybe, yeah, I think that's good. I mean, problem solving or project-based learning.
I'm Susan, and I'm in Forestry and Wetland Resources, and I'll interject myself here, even though I'm not one of the official cohort members, because I think I have something to gain, and perhaps you have something to gain as well by my proposition. I've taught 12 different courses in range and soils here and public policy. So I think what I really need to do, I probably will work on a couple of different things as a result of these conversations and this learning, but I think I'm going to focus in on what we're calling now confluent capstones for natural resources. And Jeff's been involved, and Kim has been involved in this, and we had a symposium in February at the range meetings. And what this is, this class, or this curriculum that I'm trying to build, or I'm trying to lead, is to create thematic capstones across different institutions. And my collaborators right now are Colorado State, University of Nevada, Reno, University of Wyoming, and probably Oklahoma State. And so we've had a lot of development that's gone on, and we have some very good people involved that have education backgrounds. But what we're trying to do is we decided that we needed some preparatory modules that will be online and that will be available to students across whoever wants to participate. And the three themes that we came up with was cultural competency, including Native American issues on rangelands especially, because rangeland is Indian country. Cultural competency is one, communications is the second one, and then kind of a checkup on policy, law, regulations, and conflict resolution in that natural resource management framework. We wanted to go back and just have touch points to make sure that people had been exposed to some of these basic skills across all of our collaborators. And then we would culminate with a thematic capstone, and the idea was that we would develop themes that were relevant to participating institutions. For example, Colorado State and Humboldt State could work together. Their faculty are more diverse than our faculty are, but our student population is more diverse than their population is. And so we would probably have a match between Colorado State and Humboldt. Another theme would be to pair in the rangeland land management discipline would be to pair a private land state like Oklahoma State with a public land state like University of Wyoming, because there's different land management issues between private ownership and then sovereign nations and public land management. And so it would benefit the students at those different institutions to have that mix, to have that interchange. So part of it would be online and part of it would be hopefully a fly-in to a common on-the-ground place. The reason that I decided to interpose myself even more is we haven't yet gotten any wildlife people involved in our project. Definitely would like to have a wildlife fellow out there. There seems to be, we need to break out, we need to break out of our soul range kind of eyeglasses here. I wanted to tell Carrie especially too that I'm excited. So we missed our grant opportunity back in March or whenever it is by 2 minutes. So, but we're going to submit again. We did get a conference grant, but we're going for a much larger grant down the road. And somebody that's coming back, do you know Cynthia Boschel? Mm-hmm. She's on board with us. She wants to be participating, and she's Native American. Is getting her JD, so she'll help us out a lot. I think with some of the cultural competency and regulatory issues that we want to include. Let's see. So I think I've said enough, but I wanted to say it in case anybody wanted to join in on this fool's errand.
I want to share what you're going to be doing on Friday, just briefly.
Okay, on Friday we're going to talk about a different course, but which is our sophomore level seminars, and with the help of Jeff and Kim both, we started doing e-portfolios for the intro seminar students so that they can get a resume going for career development. They do a career matrix. They have guest speakers from the disciplines that are involved in the class, and they do a literature review, so there's some writing. So we're building some of those competencies in the seminar. Too much coffee. And we're plopping it down in an e-portfolio with the idea that we'll use that as one point, and then when they do their capstones later, we have another point to be able to measure how they've evolved and changed between a sophomore level seminar and their presentation of ideas, their expression, their critical thinking, their approaches to problems in their capstone. So to show a gain, hopefully, to do no harm.
That's a lot of plopping too.
Yeah, a lot of plopping. So we're going to talk about e-portfolios on Friday.
Nice, Beth. And I've been this is in my 21st year in environmental resources engineering, which has been a blink. Wow. And I'm a department chair right now, and so but I've taught a lot of different classes, and I teach as a department chair as well. So I think my areas of expertise formally are water resources planning and management, which is kind of computers and math applied to water quantity problems. And then I've also looked at engineering education for a long time. And I think I've also been involved in faculty development for a long time since graduate school. And I think a really long theme, you know, and I just went on sabbatical where you get to sit there going, why am I doing this and what am I here for? I think a big, one of those commandments, I've always been really deeply motivated for access, and that's one of the things I really like about being at Humboldt. And diversity in the classroom's been a big, I mean, it's a theme I've done since graduate school. I don't think I have I don't have all the answers, and I just have, I have a lot of ideas. So with that, I'm now focused on, because of a retirement, I get to teach a class that I actually got a PhD in. So exciting. And then I also decided to flip it. And so I just spent the first year flipping it. And the thing I like theoretically about flipping the classroom is this idea that the classroom space should be this precious time that we should do things together that we could not do anywhere else. And so if I look at classroom time that way, then there should be all these things that I pull out of the classroom, and that classroom time is so precious. And then I should have these amazing experiences where people are pushing their boundaries and finding their limits and exploring themselves and looking, wow, look what I did, and I'm changing their worldviews. I mean, that's, you know, this, I'm an idealist.
I like that. No, I'm in that with you. Yeah.
And so like, I just got a chance to do that, and I room for improvement. And so that's really what I'm here for, is how do you know, where have I been successful in doing that, and then how do I use that time really preciously, that classroom time work. And I've learned that I so believe in projects. We studied the material for 4 weeks, and then I gave them a project. The questions they were asking me made it really clear that they did not learn the stuff. You know, it's like, you would have thought so by looking at the quiz and the exam. So talking about assessment is going to be coming up like, oh, I'm so glad I'm doing this project. Right, and so that whole idea of what are they really learning, what do I really want to learn? And I spent last year reading Understanding by Design. So I wrote up a lot of what I was trying to think about, what do I really want them to be able to think about 5 years from now, and hanging.
You can help facilitate that next piece then, when we do that.
So I don't know, so the idealistic part of me is trying to figure out, that's what really motivates me to be here, and how to keep the people that are in my room engaged, and getting to know each other better.
So you're creating those connections, and you're setting the foundation for your mafia, right? And
right, yeah. And I had to talk about the whole professional piece. This is your, you know, how we work together. This is part of your cred, right? It's later, you know, oh yeah, you don't know. You know, when people say, what about this Eschenbach person? And you know, is she going to say, oh, she's great, you want to have her on your team? Or versus, yeah, I worked with her. And I do that in front of my class. So this is your chance. You know, this is it's. And then the last thing I'll say is, I think our college should have a capstone class in environmental impact assessment.
Yes,
I mean, then all the majors would have a job, because we do an environmental impact assessment class now, and they pretend to be biologists, and they pretend to be biologists and wildlife folks.
Yep.
And
they do an EMP separately.
Right.
And ours don't have anything, and we need one.
Yeah, so I think that would be that. But anyway, I'll figure that out.
She said
I
it.
like that.
She
This
does
is
it.
about
I'm not the
connection,
first
really. How do we use our
Oh.
precious time? I think that one of the ways we use our precious time today is to make those connections and learn from one another. So I'm fine with you guys sort of advertising what needs to happen. Thank you. Is there anything else you want me to add? All I added was the precious time bit, but because you said so much, but I felt like that was encapsulating.
That's the heart of it is if I'm really going to bring these people to be together in a room, that I'm so responsible for designing an experience that matters.
Yeah.
And when I don't do that, I've not done my job.
that could be an entire week's exploration. A month, a year, a lifetime.
Right, no, that's, yeah. I keep you coming back, or else quitting.
Yeah, that is correct.
I'm Jane. I'm a lecturer in the biology department. I've taught a bunch of different classes there in biology and zoology. But the course I'm officially here for is Biology 104, which is general bio for non-science majors or non-biology majors. But I'm also a biologist to Biology 102, which is human biology for non-biology majors. They're very similar classes, so they have a lot of similar problems. So they're very large classes, 120 students with 150. They both have a really diverse student population. They both have students from all different levels, from incoming freshmen who have no idea what they're doing to seniors who put the class off for the very last semester.
Desperate but not motivated.
Can we write that down?
There are all different majors except for biology majors, because for non-biology majors, there's a lot of different kinds of personalities. And another big problem is that a lot of them are afraid of doing biology. These are GE courses, it's like a GE requirement, and they have no problem coming up to me and saying, I can't do biology. And so they just set themselves up for failure, and they need to find a way to deal with that, over that.
Just tack on, yet, I can't do biology.
Yes.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's a big hurdle because, self-efficacy, the research on self-efficacy says that self-efficacy being your belief in your ability to accomplish tasks or, varied tasks. The number one predictor of your success is your self-efficacy score. It's the strongest, some of the strongest results in science, to the sort of the level of significance that we use for pharmaceuticals and even beyond. That's the kind of strength of that finding. So if you've got students coming in going, oh, I can't do it, then just qualification of, yet is just so critical, because you can't start out thinking you're not even going to take a step on the path. So what would you like me to write down about what you want to get from this week? Or what you're
Pleased to deal with all those issues. The large class size, the fear of biology, ways to engage the students, and then get past those things.
I'm going to write ways to engage. That's so broad, but having trouble writing down at the bottom. But that includes, large class sizes, fear, and other obstacles. So incorporating those.
So I'm Jeff, and I'm in the wildlife department, and I've taught for I think 13 or 14 years. I taught all the junior and senior level courses in the program, a variety of them, and for the last 3 or 4 years, I'm now teaching the freshman level course, both semesters, as our program has increased. So there's 100 plus in the fall and then 70 in the spring, sort of thing. And then I still hang on to teach one senior level course in addition in the spring. And I'm redesigning the freshman level course. I feel like I've been redesigning it every year for 3 years. And now that I felt that it was just about right, I'm scrapping it and redesigning it through this program this week. And what I am valuing about this week and this time is just getting organized. So I'm just getting organized from the SLOs. So this session, this morning is what I need to reevaluate my student learning outcomes. And I valued the book. All of my SLOs were in the first section about knowledge. And now I feel liberated to be able to craft SLOs about caring and human dimension and all the rest of them. And it's fun, so I'm getting organized. And then tomorrow and the next day is going to be valuable to me as well, to make sure what I'm actually currently offering is addressing all these other issues about all these other dimensions to it. So that's very liberating, it's great, and I value it. And what I also value is teaching at a university where we're encouraged almost every semester to challenge ourselves to recraft our courses. It's really exciting to have presidents and deans and such that are included. And my current course is flipped, and what I'm hoping to be able to do is to make the home time include. So when they're preparing to come to class, where we have discussions and where we have active learning sessions, it's the home time that I want to make more attractive to them too. And so I'm hoping to learn more from the online learning folks on how to make Moodle more attractive and more accessible and interactive, capture their interest so that they are more willing to do the preparation before they come to class, and therefore participate more in class. So that's one of the things I'm hoping to achieve here this week.
I added and I also added making it a little more engaging so that they're ready and ready to really engage, which sort of reflects back to that's kind of that precious time. So that is there anything else you want to add?
That's a good start. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jack. I lived into Humboldt State University about 4 years ago and started teaching. I'm a lecturer, and I have taught both in the Department of Biology, but lately more in environmental science and management, because they just need me more there. And what I'm doing here, well, one of the classes I teach there is their introductory class, EMBS 110 Introduction. I've taught elsewhere, and I guess I was chicken. I know that, and we all know that teaching straight lecture is not a successful way to teach. We know that, but I was too chicken to do anything about it. So the first couple of years, I just did that and relied on my native charisma to make it work. And my teaching evaluations are good, and yet I still see so many students flunk. I know it's wrong, and so I'm going to stop talking about that now and come back to it in a second, because you need to know something else, which is that about a little over a year ago, I agreed to teach an online class, to develop a new online class that satisfied upper division area B GE requirement. That's the upper division science thing. And so I said, okay, because I was desperate for work, and I knew nothing about online. In fact, I was greatly prejudiced against online education. I just thought face-to-face was vastly superior, could never substitute it, but I prostituted myself and did it. And it's been a fantastic learning experience. I got rid of my prejudice. I modified my opinion about online education. I've learned how to do it with the help of Morgan Barker and Dan Fiore, who are just fantastic helpers. And together we brought this class in, and it was greatly successful. And one of the reasons it was greatly successful is because students are desperate for that GE class. They have to take it. They all signed up. It's very popular. But also, it's gotten really good evaluation. And it's been really one of the, I hate to admit this, it's been a highlight of my teaching career, is to go through this process, a very creative process, really difficult, but creative and rewarding, and see that it actually works. So having that experience behind me, I'm now brave enough to do something for this introductory, critically important lecture class in the MBS 110. So my goal for that class is specifically to flip about a third of the classes, maybe a little bit less than a third of them, just because I want to see how it goes before I go whole hog into flippage. So I want to do that, number one. Number two, I want, and what was the other thing? Oh, I want to get better at using clickers. I've used clickers, but it's just not a good way. I know it's not a good way. So I need to improve that. And also, because I have this background in the online class, I'm not afraid of Moodle anymore, and I realize it can be used really successfully, especially in a hybridized class. So I'll be doing that more too. For instance, I'm thinking, pretty sure now that I'll be offering, instead of big, scary midterms that crush everybody, weekly online out of class quizzes or exams, so 7 exams per semester. And then that preserves that precious class time space, not for reviewing for the midterm and giving the midterm, but for the other good things that really ought to happen in there. So I don't know if they can add anything new to that, but.
Well, I added, flip about a third, which is, I didn't want to just sort of repeat this because it's a little different. And then I added, where else did I put it?
Clickers?
Clickers, yeah.
Okay.
I thought I added one more thing, but yeah, I lost it.
Oh, one other thing is, I have this really bizarre disconnect in my teaching evaluations. The students rate me pretty highly on making the classroom an open, safe place, and yet I have this big difference between the failure rate of the URM and the overrepresented, or whatever they're called. And so, I'm an aging white guy, and I've got this very colorful classroom, and this is bad. I need to do something about it, but I don't quite know what. I'm hoping to get some ideas here to address that.
Marianne, what he said about assessment is, I don't think you got that, but that would be really good.
Repeat it for me.
What he said, switching away from the big scary midterm and using online quizzes.
I was so
more
lost.
frequent
Yeah,
that's okay. I don't know.
Because I
just
made that switch from the big midterm finals and classes to the quizzes, and I love it because I got more of that time.
Yeah.
But for the first time ever, I got a comment on, I've been doing that for maybe 3 semesters, and I got a comment on an evaluation this last semester that said, well, in addition to the quizzes, I'd like a big test.
It's always.
I suspect it was someone who is really good at big tests, you know, and really, because some people really define themselves by their ability. So I'm not sure. That's total conjecture on my part, but it's next. So using quizzes online. And then up here, I didn't finish, but it's better understanding that discrepancy between how people are reporting your climate in your class and how comfortable or accepted they feel, and that pass failure rate.
Yeah.
That's a really difficult one, because I think that a lot of times we think if we just make everybody more comfortable, then their success rate is going to increase, and there's more to it than that. Okay, so that took a lot of time, but I almost feel like, okay, now these are our SLs for today, right? They're not written in a format that matches any sort of rule that I know of, but this is what you guys want to get to. And, you know, I'm just here for whatever, 90 minutes, right? But you guys are teachers for one another. I mean, there's just such a wealth of experience in this room. And so, you know, I'm hoping that listening to one another helps spark some things that you're thinking, oh yeah, you know, that's what I want to do too, or oh wow, that might be a resource, and I've heard, you know, some definite resources here in this room. So thank you for that. I'm going to keep that in mind. I hope you are too, as we move on. I did want to say, I noticed when I was looking over journals last night and the feedback that we got, that there was a lot of, oh, I want to know the activities. I want some hands-on activities. And we're doing that, sort of later in the week, right? Today, my task was to lead you in some thinking about where you want to go, the end point, not the how you get there. I'm participating in a year-long learning community with a group of elementary school teachers and school psychologists, school social workers on the neurosequential model of education. And we almost lost people the first 2 weeks, because people were like, I don't want to know the science behind it. I just want to know what to do with the children in my class. And I think we all go there. We want to know, just tell me what to do. But if you don't think about where you want to get to, those activities are going to take you in all sorts of random places. I was not brave enough, but I almost put up that quote, that Frodo Baggins quote about stepping out your front door. And I was like, oh, I don't know, these people are going to think I'm such a nerd. And then what did I do? I just shared it with you. But do you guys know that quote? It was originally on there. I hope I took it down.
I don't know, I saw it yesterday.
I didn't take it down Testament. I'm just kidding. So it's that, what is it? It's that you never know what, do you have it there?
No, I know, because
He says it's a dangerous thing stepping outside your door from
Yes.
because
you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And I feel like that's what starting a class is, because I want the experience with the students. I want that precious time. I want that, what do you need? Where are you coming from? Where can we go together? But the university is not paying me to just have this experience, right? I have a piece that's part of this structure that has to get them to a certain place when we're done, so they're prepared for the next class, the next experience, the next sort of layer or building block in that process. So that's where student learning objectives come in. So that's where, I believe that's the beginning, those are our mileposts, that's the sort of beginning of where we're going. On that note, how many of you are familiar with Bloom's taxonomy? So most, is that kind of the most? Feeling pretty good about how you use it? How many of you have designed student learning objectives around Bloom's? Okay, that was helpful. So you're familiar with it, but you haven't used it to structure your learning objectives? Yeah? So what's your understanding of Bloom's in a nutshell? Somebody tell me.
There's a hierarchy, and it gets tougher and tougher for us to think critically or in a more integrated way.
In a more integrated way.
It's hard for us too. I'm here to admit it.
What do you mean?
It's harder to build activities and strategies in classes that are at the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy.
Why? What is it? What is the higher level of Bloom's taxonomy?
Critical thinking, integration, and application.
It's really flexibility and your ability to manipulate your facility with information, your ability to connect it with other things. So you start out, just that factual stuff, and then hopefully you build your ability to apply, your ability to analyze using certain standards, your ability to create completely new and unique things based on that. So that's Bloom's. What about Think? And how many of you read that chapter on student learning experiences? Okay, so some. So what about Think? What do you know about Think's taxonomy?
I like it.
Yeah, tell me what you like.
Yeah. I like the idea of thinking about personal change and as a
Look the window as you're talking.
I guess for me in particular, it connects with, in social work, we talk about use of self, and we talk about that what our students are most able to take with them from all of our coursework is developing their professional self and how they engage with others. So a lot of the taxonomy, which is about critical thinking, self-reflection, engagement, caring, those are all exactly the kinds of goals that I have for effective social work practitioners. And I see Melinda shaking her head, but I think there's a similar connection with psychology. So for me, there's an alignment there.
What about the disciplines that don't sort of have that caring component to their work? And I'm thinking of caring as an human interaction. How does it work for you?
Well, I'm looking at this.
I'll put it up.
The pie, the pizza pie or the cherry pie or whatever pie was that. And then the caring, developing new feelings, interests, and values. I mean, I've had students, I was very gratified. I had students come out and say, this class has changed the way I see everything. Right?
Love that.
And it's like, oh, one person.
Maybe more. This didn't happen to tell you.
But, you know, and that I wake up in the morning and I think about, and it's going to be really nerdy, but it's basically a way to set up a math problem and seeing constraints and where the boundaries are and why you want to optimize something, but you have multiple objectives. So really what engineering is coming up with a reasonable solution to an ill-defined problem. So what's a reasonable solution? What's the where are your boundaries? And so they start thinking about, even today, do I wear these clothes or these clothes? What are the trade-offs of wearing those boots versus these boots? You know, it starts changing the way they see everything. They care about it. And so there I go, I nailed that one. They like
So
this
it's not
stuff.
just-
They like it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just, I like her, I like thinking about this stuff.
Right. It's about meaning. It's become meaningful for them. Right. Yeah. So this isn't just about the touchy-feely sort of characters, right? Other thoughts about this that people have? Yeah.
So one of the things I did like about Bloom is that I felt like I gave myself permission that when I'm teaching intro, I could be here, and that was fine.
Yes.
Right? But what I appreciate about this taxonomy is just, and to reiterate what Yvonne said and Beth, that there are certain things about introductory psychology where I teach learning theory and I teach memory. Like I teach specifically and explicitly the neuroscience and how that works and the ways to enhance it, and that it's so useful. And this framework, I think, is so applicable to my science that it was relieving to have something to pin, a place to pin the ideas to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. My take on this is that I like, well, I'm gonna guys do some work around it, but essentially that Bloom's fits in here. It's just, this is another, that they coexist. Yeah.
Doesn't Bloom have, we always focus on one of them, aren't there like 3 pies for Bloom?
Oh, there are three, there's cognitive, there's affective, and there's, if you mean that, the cognitive, affective, and psycho and motor. But then there are also the dimensions within Bloom's, and so you have practical knowledge and metacognitive knowledge. So within, and it becomes this. Actually, there's a link on Moodle to an interactive.
Yeah, it wasn't working for me.
It wasn't?
Yeah, I sat and spun.
Oh, bummer. Which, okay, all right. Well, I'll
But
find it for you.
that pyramid, but isn't there a pyramid in multiple domains, and so that really?
Yes, affective and motor. And affective does some of this here, that one, yeah, absolutely. But what I like about Bloom's is that, well, I'm just going to say it right now, is that it's been used so many places, that there's so many resources out there, and now I'm wondering sort of how many of my links are working, but there's stuff out there about how to use how to assess a PowerPoint using Bloom's and set up PowerPoint assignments so that if you've got a student doing a presentation, you can sort of assess, you can write your objectives for that and your directions, and then sort of assess just using something as simple as PowerPoint. I mean, there's so many resources out there for that. And I really value Bloom's for the verbs, the verbs, the how do you write a student learning objective. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, but I don't think it's either or. I don't think it's Bloom's or Fink's, but Fink's really adds an element that Bloom's does not cover. Bloom's is just about that cognitive, how do you?
Well, I guess what I'm is, we only look at one of Bloom's triangles, which is all
but
about
even his
triangles.
affective one doesn't do all of this. But yeah, you're right. That it's and they're actually not Bloom's. There's some other names of people who worked on those. I've got it on a slide.
Yeah, and which version of Bloom are you looking at?
You're right, Anderson and Crosswalls, but yeah, Jeff, you were going to say.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was looking at Fink's verbs that he uses for building SLOs, and I found them, there weren't enough choices. Anyway, so the interactive diagram on the Bloom's taxonomy circle diagram loaded with 50 new verbs to use.
Yeah.
So that was.
Yeah. So just to let you know that that's out there. So I want to go back and start with an example. So the idea in writing student learning outcomes is that we have some big ideas, some things that we want students to walk away with, and that those sort of are transmuted through student understandings, and we go what students understand to specific learning outcomes. And I want to keep this idea of big ideas, because I think it's those big ideas where our juice is, our enthusiasm, that sort of where do you want to go, where do you want students to be in 5 years. I'm going to just use an example from my own department. We made them crazy on campus recently. What is it? I always call it PERP as a joke, but it's a prep, right? Something. It's terrible of me. I can't even share that. But somewhere in that process of our learning outcomes, because we're all supposed to do this, right? Sort of deliver your department student learning outcomes, and we made them crazy because we wanted sort of this 4-dimensional model in our department. We delivered something that was color-coded and colored and coded with numbers and had blooms and then had interactions between courses. And they said, oh, no, that's not really what we want. It's a little too much. But we do this thing, we have this idea of recursive curriculum, right? That we introduce something in the lower levels and then we come back to it again at the next level, and then we come back to it again. So we have a practicum class where I have some basic, our 200 level practicum class just has some basic things that we want them to understand. Then we revisit it in our second practicum class, and we revisit it in our senior directed field experience course. We do that with almost all our classes. There's this idea that, you're just introducing this at this level, and then we're going to take it a little deeper once you have it, and we're going to take it as far and as deep as we can go by the time they're seniors. And I find that relieving. Somebody said, maybe it was Melinda, that it's kind of nice to just know in those foundation courses that you're just teaching that foundation knowledge, but having an idea.
How to learn it, and then those two pieces I think are
how to learn it and what the basics, the foundation is to that discipline. Yeah, and then you're going to come back to it, right? Because then you don't have to do it all in that one piece.
Do you have a curriculum mapping tool to show that?
Oh, we are working on that.
No, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have this grid, and then we have this Excel tool, like for our parent and family relationships concepts. Instructors have gotten together and said, okay, this is what we're doing in 200, this is what we're doing in 300, this is what we're doing.
I don't know if there's a tool out there.
I wish there was one. And yeah.
For the geospatial courses, we use just Google Docs with the Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's what we've been using.
Regularly and talk about, each level and what we're going to cover.
Yeah. And do you sort of label them with sort of depth and
Yeah, we have each course and then a lot of different categories that we're covering, and then we're trying to make it so that they track. They're all linked together and we're not overlapping too much.
Yeah, it's not a linear process, and so the linearness of spreadsheets I've struggled with. So I would love to talk with you about it.
Yeah, I envision this interactive thing where you can, like if you're looking at learning objectives, there might be a single program outcome.
Yeah.
You know, and then you would map to it all across the curriculum.
Right.
And
we've done that
the
in
levels would show.
You know, and it's sort of like,
oh yeah, we have these grids.
yeah, you know, right, and then these are the classes, and
yeah,
it's not, no.
It's not deep.
No.
You should be able to drill down and go, well, what do you do in that class to meet that?
Yes.
And I haven't done that too.
And we've done assignments, we fit into our grid exactly which assignments and which courses are meeting those larger program objectives and classroom objectives or outcomes as well. But it's still not quite what I still have to see. What are you doing? Yeah, John.
You know, we have, we use the course development process. We list what the outcomes for the department are, and then the student outcomes. And then we map the activities and the assessments to that. What has been interesting to me is that seems like, okay, that's a real kind of conservative way of developing a course. But since I've been here, we've been working with instructors who have had to go back to their department and go, oh my God, what are we doing? We don't have these objectives to map back to. So it's been interesting to see that. It can be really useful. Yeah.
Because I think that maybe Kim mentioned it in the beginning, that sort of you get going somewhere and then you go, oh, this isn't matching. Right. And do you guys do this? I get really attached to the content I'm teaching. And then to have someone say, oh, well, actually, that's not part of our objectives at all. I'm like, can we switch that then? Because I think this is important. So that's sort of revisiting it and how does that fit? But, I'm still stuck on the color coding. There needs to be that third layer in there. So I put that out there, just not because I'm expecting you to do that department work, but because I think that it's important to sort of think about where does this fit and where can you guys go as a department to sort of make sure it all fits together and flows, because the work will be, I believe, that your work will feel more successful, and it can take some weight off knowing that, oh, okay, I'm dealing with this level of complexity with family systems theory, but I know that this next instructor is going to take that next piece where I can't go this semester, and I can tell the students that that's going to happen. Yeah.
The one thing we've been learning in our department, took a very long time to learn this, but our 200 level courses or 300 level courses used to be taught by folks who would just be transient through our program or whatever, and didn't have a bigger perspective on what seniors leave the program with and are lacking. And so now we've flipped our department. So the senior person is teaching the freshmen, having taught the 400 levels, realizing what our seniors didn't get from all the foundational level courses before they get to the wildlife department, sort of thing. And then we are able to build on that, fill in the gaps and create a better foundation in the 200 level, all the intro things that we're talking about. That's another aspect. Yeah. Who's teaching these courses is another aspect.
It's a big piece of that. Yeah.
Well, again, if there's this mapping tool, that sounds like you're feeling like you have a clear communication of what your scope is, right? What box you're supposed to be responsible for. But it would be,
that could really help.
It would really help, and it helps when you bring someone new in and say, this is, because we brought in lecturers, we've brought in tenure track faculty, and we haven't always communicated that. No, your course is really important for the writing piece that is embedded throughout our curriculum. And you just changed a major assignment that we actually been relying on you, and we forgot to tell you that. Yes. Actually, that's our fault. But sorry about that. And part of it is because we don't have it carefully documented anywhere, because we haven't come up with a tool that we like. Yeah. Even just And so you look back and say, well, Jeff taught a class where they're supposed to learn how they do regression with Excel, and nobody knows how to do regression with Excel. Jeff, what happened? I don't even have a tool to be able to do that, so.
I think, wait, that sounds like a conversation for our incredible resources that we have here, because I think we're really lucky in the instructional designers that we have. Just what could we use? Because has anybody else had that experience? Because certainly in our department, we experienced that, because that's the way the system works. We bring in lecturers, we bring in new faculty, and we don't always have the time or the setup to help them know what that piece is. And I think that it's useful. I have a class I teach that I say to the students, and this is sort of the message from on high from our department, this is the course where you will learn precision. This is it. That's a really big deal. One course, you will learn to be precise in your writing, you will learn to be precise in your observations, and you will learn to be precise in the conclusions that you draw. But it's a big deal. It's an observation class. They write a case study. But it shouldn't be the only place that they learn precision, right? There should be no, okay, now this is my bias and my own pedagogy. If you believe in this, then it shouldn't be just one place and then you leave it and you don't come back to it. And actually, I think even if we think about things and we think about connected ways of knowing, that we have to revisit. And so, having a tool like that could be really helpful. So I'm just gonna throw out an example because we started out when we were planning this, thinking about, well, what are examples? And so our department wants to produce child development professionals who understand political and policymaking processes, and they can use those processes to support optimal experiences for children, families, and communities. Okay, so that's one of our senior capstone courses. We have a multi-logical family community child-centered orientation. You guys know the term multi-logical? So we had this orientation, and then I'm so grateful to Dr. Keishan Lara Cooper for bringing the word multi-logical to our department. It's used in other contexts, but often in critical race theory, right? Thinking about the ways different people experience, and it is a challenge, or it is a challenge to Aristotle's way of thinking, that there is truth, right? There's a truth, and you go out and you find it. Essentially, multi-logical perspective says there can be multiple truths that coexist all at the same time. And the way that we use that in our department is to go, oh, well, you as a professional may have a perspective, a family may have a perspective, and you may be thinking, oh, this family is not taking very good care of their child. Oh my goodness, they're putting this child at risk. But this family has a knowledge and an expertise that they're bringing to their relationship with their child. And that truth is just as valuable as the truth or the perspective that you bring as a professional. And you need to wrap your head around that and value that truth. And we struggle with this, I believe, in our society, that we have sort of truths or ways of thinking that we value, and then we discount the ways of thinking that other non-dominant, non-majority think about things. And so it's a really critical thing to our department that we're providing a space where there can be multiple truths that are valued. Now that sounds really easy, but when a student says to me, I think that that those families who are here in this country illegally should just go back over the border and apply to come in through the legal process because they're breaking the law. And then I have another student who says to me, why do these white students think that they have a right to speak and be heard just because of who they are? And I want to go, yes, you're right, and wait a minute, you don't understand the process of how it is to get into this country. And then I have to go, oh, two perspectives, two lived experiences. And my job, if our goal is multi-logical thinking, is to bring them together to both understand those different places that they're standing. Does that make sense? So that's multi-logical. So The student learning objective that I had written for this class was, we want them to create a public policy analysis using a multi-logical approach. And that multi-logical approach includes being able to demonstrate and integrate all these different kinds of perspectives when they're analyzing a policy. That makes sense? So theoretical, individual, relational context, economic, political context, cultural context, social context, community context, all of that they need to be able to integrate. Senior capstone course, right? So where does that example fit into? Think.
All of them.
All of them? Tell me about that. I don't know. Does it fit in all of them?
Maybe not foundational knowledge. Application, integration, human, caring, and how to learn.
How to learn. How to learn.
What you want them to take with them. You remember down.
I almost wish this was, I think this is assumed that they will, in incorporating this, that they will figure out how to get that information, but I almost want to pull that out into another student learning objective. Does that make sense to people? Anybody have some things they can add to that to sort of make it clearer for everyone why I'm wondering about that? Yeah, Yvonne.
I started working on this piece about metacognition where I actively ask students to, for example, like reflect back, like they have a first journal or reflection in the beginning of the class. What do you know about social work already, or whatever it is? And then at the end of the class, review your first journal. What have you learned since then? How do you witness your own learning?
Nice. So you're really actively in an assignment creating that chance to exercise that
And I
metacognition.
talk with them a little bit about how that process of being able to actually see your own learning is this important tool. Because my goal is that they become reflective practitioners.
Right. Right. That's what we expect our job as teachers to lead with, that ability to think critically and reflectively about your own practice and continue that learning process. I didn't have an answer to this question that I asked, but I think that what I struggle with is if they don't have this and they don't have this, they fail that assignment that I have, where they actually do a policy analysis. So, but I feel like that's not clear to them that they understand that, so it needs another student learning objective in there to support that, and that's kind of one of the things I struggle with. So here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to think about what are the big concepts you want your students to walk away with. Think, who calls that the change in students, in 5 years, what do you want them to walk away with? What's that big idea that you're gonna use to structure your learning objectives? As Post-it notes, I'm gonna bring you those. I want you to write down your big ideas, and then we're gonna do something else with that big idea. So I'll pass around, you guys think for a minute while I grab the Post-it notes. I want you to get up, let's do some stretching, because we've been talking too long. You guys can. I love Post-it note activities.
Colored Post-it.
I know. I should have done great. People put grab whoever had a bean on the class, and we put grade charts on lunches on Post-it notes stuck in on people's.
I've got some.
And the kids in the hat would have the book in front of them, and you'd be telling people. I loved it.
I want you to know, I really enjoyed this story. Finding a really open approach to the idea of objective.
We'll see where it goes, but.
That's it today.
Oh, right. We are
I'm being
thinking,
It's
what
basically,
do we want our
I should have asked for it sooner, because it's the big ideas, it just says it differently.
We did.
Oh. And they're called, these are called, what are the big?
A lot of the templates and things that are really beneficial, but we just do the
So this should drive.
Well, I'm not saying it needs to be for this class.
right, but it does have that work.
But I really like the way they express the big idea and it's how short that is.
Oh,
This is the big
Okay.
idea.
So I have a vision.
Think about that.
And I was trying to find what slide in my, yeah, I'm trying to find one. Yeah,
Templates
it's pretty
and,
impactful.
yeah, and if there's certain ones that you use that you felt were useful to use, I know that they have a lot of different, they have a lot of different templates, and you could, you know, post links to some of those. Again, especially if you want to share.
Do you want to talk a little bit about big ideas?
Well, I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, I would. I just understand by design, the way they talk about it. They give some great examples of how to fully change the boards.
If you find it, could you put it in the resources?
Yeah, and we have copies of the books because we did sort of all.
Oh, okay.
E-learning team, and so we're happy to share that. And they actually have a whole website on a lot of the templates and some of the other pieces that could be useful. So maybe we'll just link to all that.
Oh, good.
I'll go ahead and add that.
When we bring everybody back together, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to take a break, a little 5-minute stretch break? Because we
Yeah.
haven't had you sitting for a long time. So why don't you do that?
Yes. We ran into a lot of similar challenges. Yeah, this,
I put in that social work into the little cycle.
yeah, because there's some of our requirements.
What instructional designers do. There's the letter, about
Some of them don't get well, they're asking them to be done.
this semester. Because I'm confused about how this works. 3 or 4, maybe it's not like that.
Oh, well, yes, it is. It's very renewable. I can't make them today, and she's like, where you're ending.
Yes.
I can't turn on any of course.
Yeah, we don't. It's interesting for me. Our online program, that's what we have.
Because I have to go to the resource and make a class and walk and say, I know that's right?
Right.
I'm not sure where to start.
I have a list here, it's just like, but in the text sense, your question is,
Oh, yes.
because that's what a big idea is.
That's what it is. So let's.
Can I email you that?
Yeah.
Can we put it up there?
What we can do is we put the course services, right?
Really a big idea.
Because I think she's on PowerPoint right now. Right. But if we put it in the course. Come on, all big ideas are in one word.
That's simple.
Oh, I'm gonna say that, yeah.
But the other thing is, that's what makes this great idea. He has great opportunity, because I wonder, I think it's actually, but yeah. It's in one of those, but I don't know if it's expanded as.
So, let's see, I've got a few things that I can only do on computer.
No.
I was no, because I've run out of, no.
I heard that.
Uh-oh, it's out now.
So, no, I meant a computer, not a,
Mobile device.
I mean, I'm at my mobile device, so I'm so hot upstairs.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll do this, but like one of them is kind of, you know, I've got some calendar stuff I've got to move around.
On your own. Well, you know what, the thing about unless I go to a web browser on my iPad for calendar, I can't invite anybody anywhere, I can't, it's.
And it doesn't, mine's not
It doesn't,
updating.
well,
It's just,
it takes a while, yeah, and it doesn't always match my phone.
There's been some change too with the, whatever way that, I don't know if it's Apple or Google or HSU,
The
but
interface.
somewhere in that interface, there's a breakdown where I can't even get my calendar. Which is like,
I
when I had to update all my passwords because of that, I deleted the calendar and tried to redo it, and it's all funky now.
Well, I noticed that there was something that changed in Google that I know I saw some announcement, but.
Yeah, it tries to take you to the HSU page
Yeah.
now instead of just doing it.
But I will say what I've noticed too, is sometimes my calendar will be completely blank, and I have my phone and my iPad and my, all that stuff in the same.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden it'll just be gone, like,
Me too.
you know, and then I'll look at my phone, like, okay, it's on there.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to figure out.
Did you email it to me?
But that is what we are.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's nice. Sorry about the tiny Post-it notes. That's what our department had this morning. Give you lots of fun.
No, that's right. So one issue, Mary Ann, is that they installed PowerPoint 2013 here, and it doesn't, when you go out of it, there's a big heaven, so if you want to go to like a browser.
I guess like,
Yeah, you do PowerPoint, that, collapse that.
No, I know, but I mean like,
And then. Double.
one of the things that wrote into me is this idea of like, each time.
I know, they said
they
there was
also have to get out and how comfortable about what makes
The
it
multiple displays go
to share with the whole class.
Yeah, and obviously, you can see what you're doing right now.
Well, the idea,
When you go back to.
yeah, it's very easy.
Okay, well, now we're gonna.
That's just not what
Whatever
I
you're
do.
doing.
They have to.
Yeah, you can just keep it. Oh, and so that.
And so the idea is to all
That's to share
bring back the account.
I'm gonna add it
That's
to
great.
the.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'm gonna post it to display it.
Yeah, so how do you go out and
Yeah,
find
that's
your
okay.
own?
Yeah.
That's kind of like learn and learn.
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
We're gonna be here in 2 years.
It might not look real pretty, yeah, I put it up there for now, but I can fix it.
That's practice.
I put it in day 2, and I just saved it, so I was trying to.
Oh, that's interesting.
Except for I'm gonna put down there. See what happens when I type on here.
So that might not work.
Yeah.
We are
I get it. Here, I have to give. Oh, you have to give.
But I guess, you know, people do like prizes. It's just like the sort of extra.
Yeah. I think it's reward for self-motivation.
Reward for self-motivation. I like that. Oh, that's a really
But we hired 2 of our advisors.
Yeah, it's like it's 5 years, you're like,
That's very good. I want to, yeah, I'm curious, I'm just thinking of ways that I might be able to utilize that. Curious. Yeah, which is really treating this, and it should cost you. Yeah, they cost. So it's basically that. Yeah. Okay.
Throwing it back at
So I realized as soon as I, welcome back, as soon as I asked you guys to do that and stepped away, that really I hadn't explained it very well. So I apologize. So I overheard Beth talking with Kim about big ideas and the sort of concept of big ideas. And so Kim was nice enough to put this on our day 2 Moodle page. This is back to notes.
To be really clear, yeah, it's not.
Okay,
It's actually, yeah, it's from Understanding by Design, and it's, they call them, I think, essential questions. But they're a big idea, basically.
Yeah.
And then this is their ideas, if you're designing a essential question or in their language or a big idea in things language, this is how they when you hang everything off of this really leads you.
This framework. Everything from your student objectives flow from this kind of framework, right? Yeah. This idea that it's open-ended and there's no simple way to answer. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you feel like it's meaningful?
At least I read the book about a year ago, and what was really compelling for me is they gave examples of covering the same material, but in the sense of like reading a book, like maybe it'd be an English class in high school, and taking a book and then changing the way you would interact with the book because of a big idea. Instead of like, and I think Capturing the Rhyme was the example that for me was so compelling. After seeing how they redesigned this reading Capturing the Rhyme using this big idea, I wanted to read the book. I mean, and it was basically because you as an individual were going to personally learn so much about yourself. It was asking questions that you were going to ask the rest of your life about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to explore this book, rather than let's go read this book and write a book report. Right? It's really compelling. It's like, well, if I can figure out how to ask questions like that about my discipline, why wouldn't students be swept away, right?
Right. Why wouldn't it change the way they think about their life? Yeah. That idea that it's connected to things, that idea that, you know, in 5 years, in 10 years, what do you want students to still have from the course that they've taken with you? You know, what's the nugget? What's the path that you set them on with this class for sort of lifelong learning? I think about, so I teach one of the classes I teach is a practicum class in the lab at the Child Development Laboratory, and students often say that this class has changed the way they think about not only children, but their relationships. And we've thought before about changing the name of the lab to Human Relationships Laboratory, because really it's about how do you interact with other humans. And then they say, you know, I use these skills on my roommates. I use that on my partner. I had a student come in one day and say, you know what, I had a conversation with my mom, and it's always really hard to talk with my mom, but I used the techniques that I learned in this class, and guess what? My conversation with my mother was the best conversation I've had with her in 10 years, which is what the student was. It was like my moment of woohoo. But it's the big idea about how, in that class, how you approach your relationships with other human beings, and the skills that you use in those relationships to kind of get you where you want to go in that relationship. So that's our big idea. It's about how do you respect and communicate with other individuals, and it's a lifelong big idea, right? We're not done. I'm not just teaching them in CD 257 and then they're done, right? And they're pros at communicating with other human beings, because that's a lifelong process, isn't it? I hope, right? I hope it is. Learning how to sort of tweak your conversation. So that's kind of what I was wanting you guys to think about. What is the big idea? Not your student learning objective specifically, but what's your big idea that you want students to walk away with from your class? And then from that, that's where your student learning objectives, I think, should flow. Kind of that big, where you want to go. So what I want you guys to do is take those, sorry about the tiny Post-it notes, that was my next under there. What I would like you to do is stick your Post-its. This is definitely a false. Well, I shouldn't say that from the beginning, but whoa. Okay, phew. I want you guys to take your Post-its and sort of put them in the main things category that you feel like they fit within. You know, is this about caring? Is it about foundational knowledge? I bet not, since it's a big idea, but maybe. And then I want you guys to, if you can, read other people's, and because you guys are one another's teachers, and I'm wondering, are there some big ideas that other people came up with that prompted you to think a little more about your own? So take your little Post-it notes, stick them over here under the thinks categories, and then let's talk about that. And if you need a minute to sort of change the ideas, since I didn't explain them very well.
Are we supposed to stick them up there?
Yeah, stick them up there, sorry.
All right.
Edging versus.
There you go. So that is what it should be. Well, that's what I did this last year.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
What she was showing about the big ideas, we've got a link on our site here somewhere.
I think she has.
It's on the bottom.
Resources.
Bottom of page 2.
Thank you.
Where it last spot.
Okay, they're falling on. We need to do it like
No,
on the
they
table.
are.
Yeah. we
Oh,
need to do it.
shoot. Okay.
Oh, that's too bad.
I was thinking, can we stick them on here? Does it work? Is that a highlight?
Yeah, let's see if they stick there, that's what I do.
They're not, it's so much.
Okay, we can flex with this. Anybody have paper or?
Transcription.
Here, you wanna use this?
We can. I don't have.
You wanna use?
Sure.
Uh,
How about I write the?
Good, I decided that.
Okay. No, I don't have tape. Do you have some tape?
You have tape.
Oh, you do have tape. Oh,
That'll
okay.
work.
Then I'll give-
Hope you have a poster header.
I know. I have it from now.
I have a mouse, but that's really far away.
You're probably.
We're supposed to do it for.
Yeah, we are too. I mean, they did.
We go to faculty center and view your roster. Someone right next to it.
The big idea.
My thought, oh, well, I'll give you the first part, not the second part. I'm not saying it means all the same. I feel like how to best manage our resources. How do I choose the best solution? How do I know when my model is good? What do good modelers do when their model is not good enough? What are the strengths and limits of mathematical modeling? In what ways does the model illuminate? In what ways does it distort? How can numbers, data lie or mislead? What might a correct answer be? When might a correct answer be not the best solution to the problem? Is this application helpful or harmful? Those kinds of, those are questions they're going to ask in professionals. Environmental systems. It's systems. What is it? Environmental systems. It's optimization and
Yeah, and that's a funny place to ask.
and these are all attitudes, these are.
Yeah. Until they decide to
Trade-off.
But anyways, she has all the posters all over.
Yeah.
And my money drives. Masterpiece on her desk. Color-coded.
And you said don't like that?
So then you have to send them to your doctor. So I want to do it. Yeah. Well, and that's what I told her. I said, you know what, if it's not broken, I'll fix it.
Oh, maybe after I work on it some more. I don't think my syllabus is very good. I think it's I like my middle syllabus. But you can look at my middle stuff, but I do, I put it all, I put mine all in a book so that they can download it and take it away. You know, you know the book tool, but maybe it's probably gone away now, they don't have it
I
anymore.
don't, they don't still have books. Do they still have books?
They did.
They did, but do they in the
Why
new
use the last
version?
semester?
Okay, okay.
And I'm hoping I get to use it this next semester.
Yeah.
Because I put a lot of effort in my books. There's a book tool.
No, I guess it's.
So what I like about it is they can save it as a PDF. Because I hate, how hard is it to get information off of your, right? At the end of this 5 days, you're gonna want these links and all this, you can't take this from here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I can give you a copy of my book, but it's not that good either.